In order to factor this, I am looking for a greatest common factor called a GCF that I'm going to pull out of those pair of terms. So I'm going to pull a GCF out of this and this, a greatest common factor. So I know they're both even, so 2 comes out, as well as I notice 7 goes into both those. So 2 times 7 is 14, so I can tell my GCF is 14. Now my next question is, 14 times what gives you 14? That would be 1. And then 14 times what gives you negative 42? That's a little bit more difficult, but that would be negative 3x. So 4 times 1 is this, and 14 times 1 is this, and 14 times this is negative 42x. Now that is perfectly fine, but there's another way you can kind of rewrite this, meaning what you could also do, I'm just going to say this is or, another way of writing it. Instead of just pulling out positive 14, I'm going to pull out a negative 14. Now if I pull out negative 14, that would make what's inside a negative 1 plus a 3x. So that would also be another way of writing it, which another way you can still rewrite it could also be negative 14 3x minus 1. Because you're also allowed to flip-flop these. There's just a whole bunch of different ways. I prefer this way because I tend to like to have my x's have positives, but it's all dependent on answers. So you have to be careful. It's a multiple choice test. You have to chase whatever way they write their answer. So you just got to be careful which way is best. They're all possible, all different ways of writing it. Now for this one, I need to pull out a GCF once again. So I think, what is my greatest common factor here? And then I'm going to be left with 2 terms. So my greatest common factor, let's think. What goes into 18 and 4? Well, we know 2 does. Well, does 4 go into both? No, 4 doesn't go into 18. So it's just going to be 2. But do you also notice there's an A in each one? So it's 2A. Because a 2A is the greatest common shared factor between the 2 pieces. So 2a times what is 18a cubed? It'd be 9a squared. And 2a times what gives you negative 4a? That would be negative 2. Now, I can't factor this anymore. That's my GCF got pulled out. I could pull out maybe a negative or change it a little bit, but I'm going to stop and just go with that one. So the first thing you do in all factoring is pull out the GCF. But here there is no GCF to pull out. So what I want to do, whenever there's a squared, it's called a quadratic, you want to use this other factoring technique where what I do is I put an x thing, I put the negative 20 on top, and then I'm going to put this right here in the middle on the bottom, the negative 8. And what I'm looking for are 2 numbers that multiply to get negative 20 and add to get 8. So what numbers multiply to get negative 20 and add to get negative 8? Well, if you think about that, it'd be negative 10 times 2 is negative 20, and negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. So those are my 2 values. And this little trick helps you factor. So when I factor it, I get y minus 10 and y plus 2. It's my little technique, y minus 10 and y plus 2. These two, if you FOIL it out, y times y is y squared, and you FOIL this whole thing out, you'll go back to this. This is called the factored form. These 2 pieces multiply to give us that quadratic polynomial. So always look for GCFs, that's these 2, and if there is none, then, and it's in this format, you want to make this little x, and then the answers, these pieces, are what you're adding or subtracting to each y, x, whatever letter is right here.